Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry, 24/7 shopping available. 160920 is the code. Show her some love, like she showed us. K&A Custom Crafts on Facebook.
All right, welcome everyone. Welcome to the Sports Compound. And yes, I am back. The Sarge is back at the Sports Compound. Hope everyone had a terrific Christmas and holiday season and a new year as well. Forgive me as I am trying to take care of some things on the phone. With that being said, I hope, again, everyone's going to have a great 2020 year this year. So let's talk about a little bit about the NFL. The NFL was in week 17, yes, this last week, and also tonight's Monday Night Football game is tonight between the Browns and the Steelers. But the highlights of this last Sunday was pretty much, let's talk about AB, Antonio Brown. Of all people, he was asked to go in to the game and he decided not to go in, and the coach said, all right, then just leave. And you know what? It was a total Antonio Brown fashion. He ripped off his jersey, ripped off his pads, his gloves, and his undershirt, and tossed pretty much everything into the stands. So I hope those fans got a good souvenir with that one down in New York. But here's the thing. There's a report out there that Antonio Brown was actually injured. He's been battling an ankle injury since like week 12 or something like that. So he's the one that didn't want to go in because he didn't feel healthy enough to play. So as a player, do you trust your own body or do you trust your coach? For me, I would trust my own body because I know what I can and cannot do. And I think that's what I think Bruce should have known what was happening. He was on the injury report. He was questionable. And they're saying that he is not even, that they did not know he was injured, even though he's been dealing with ankle issues with that. So with that being said, who's at fault? Bruce Arians or Antonio Brown? Even though Antonio Brown should not have just walked out like that. I mean, that gives a bad taste and everything. And I don't know if he's going to be with the rest of the team because the head coach for the Buccaneers said he's no longer with the team with that. So with that being said, Antonio Brown, I mean, if he's released, he's going to probably be put on waivers, and a team that could pick him up is potentially the Cowboys because Cowboys got bad news with Gallup going down with the ACL, with the torn ACL. So he's done for the season, but you also got, Antonio Brown out there who's yet to been released by the team. So, but Tom Brady came in defensive with Antonio Brown, saying just give him compassion. But here's the thing, though. As an athlete, are you there to make money or trust your body? I mean, all your contracts can be all sensitive. Have a small base pay for all athletes, and if they hit pretty much every single tier marks, they get more incentives. That's what salary should be. The salary should be lower. Make those incentives higher. Antonio Brown lost over probably about $1 million just because of this. I mean, I don't blame the guy. I mean, if I'm hurting, I know I can't perform. I don't know what I'll do. I'd honestly probably try to go out and hurt myself more. That's me. That's how I roll with that one. So, but speaking of that, of the Tampa Bay game, they almost lost to the New York Jets. They beat the New York Jets 28-24 pretty much on one of the last plays, even though the New York Jets botched a call with a QB sneak. So with that, that's on Jets' fault. They're not even making the playoffs, no matter what. But we got Buffalo Bills. They beat Atlanta 29-15. Buffalo is in the lead in the AFC East. They have the same tied with the same record with the New England Patriots, but they have the tiebreaker with the best win percentage with that one. But I guess one of the games is the Bengals versus Kansas City. I mean, that was a shootout almost. Who could shoot out Patrick Mahomes? I never predicted Joe Burrow to do that, but with Jamar Chase there, you have a legitimate shot to make it there with that. Then you got the Colts. The Colts lost to the Las Vegas Raiders, and that actually kind of dampen their chances to clinching a playoff spot with that one. So speaking of playoff spots on the AFC side, we got the Titans, the Chiefs, the Bengals, the Bills, the Patriots all have clinched a playoff spot. And also, we still have Baltimore that's still out there that is playing, even though they're not playing very well without Lamar Jackson. But Huntley is still a pretty darn good quarterback. Then you got the Browns going against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I bet you if the Browns do win tonight, that this Pittsburgh chances for the playoff spot is over. And just like Ben Roethlisberger's career, that was over about 2 or 3 years ago with that one. But you still got the Colts, the Chargers, and the Raiders. And the Chargers and the Raiders, they're going to duke it out next week on Monday night, I believe, for that final playoff spot. And let's go on the NFC side. I mean, it's more know who's who. Green Bay just wrapped up the number 1 spot on the NFC side with the win over the Vikings. I don't know why the Vikings did not play Kellen Mond, but after watching the press conference with their coach needs to go. He's trying to act like Bill Belichick. He's saying, some reporter was asking about Kellen Mond and asking if they will see more of him, and he said no. And the question was pretty much, why won't you see him more? And then Zimmerman decided to answer with, well, I see him every day. So it's either he doesn't fit in Zimmerman's plan or Mond's not that good. You should have just let him play and see what he could have done. I mean, your offense was atrocious yesterday against an above average Packers defense, I would say. I mean, you couldn't run the ball up the middle because Clark, the defensive tackle, was just clogging everything. And you had a quarterback who hasn't won a game. And actually, the quarterback, Manning, he never threw a touchdown pass till last night, I should say. But that's here nor there. But Zimmerman trying to act like Belichick, giving those one-word answers or something like that. You don't do that. You don't have the rings to even have a chance to do that. Belichick does, because he is the GOAT when it comes to the press with that. That's my opinion with that one. Also, during the weekend, we had the huge bowl season is ahead of us with college football. We had the college football playoff semifinals. We had Alabama and Cincinnati, and also we had Georgia versus Michigan. So both Georgia and Alabama want to set up a rematch for the SEC championship game. But who won better? Was it Georgia or was it actually Alabama? In my opinion, it was Georgia. I think Georgia played a lot better ball than what Alabama did. I don't think the quarterback Young for Alabama Crimson Tide, I don't think he is a true quarterback. I just don't see it in him, and he's just one of those gotcha players like Tyson Hill. I can eat my words like when that happens. If he goes number 1 and so forth, I'll eat my words. And he has a good career. Hope he has a good career. I hope everyone has a good career, but I'll eat caca if that does happen. But with that being said, who actually had a better game? Was it Georgia or was it? Oh, I already lost it. Or Alabama. Like I said, I think it was Georgia. They played against a better team in Michigan than what Cincinnati was. And yes, Cincinnati did prove that they are alive and well in college football. So with that being said, excuse me about that. Should the college football expand the playoffs? I think so. Maybe to 12 teams. Yes, you're going to get some heartbreaks there. You're going to have some top seed defeated the number 1 seed. I mean, it happens in college football no matter what. So just don't make it into the 4 teams. Expand it. I bet you there's better teams out there that could beat Alabama and Georgia, to be honest with you. I bet you Ohio State would have a better chance than Michigan did. I'm not a big Ohio State fan, but I think Ohio State would have a better chance against Georgia or Alabama than what Michigan had. On top of college football with that, we got the FCS. They know how to do college football. This Saturday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on ESPN2, you can watch the FCS championship game with the Montana State Bobcats going after North Dakota State University down in Texas. I think it's in Frisco, Texas, or something like that. And I think it's going to be a great time, good game. I'm going to go root for my home roots down in Montana. So go Montana State with that one. So going to college basketball. I don't know if you guys have seen the latest rankings, but Baylor, they're back. Yes, Baylor is number 1. Duke is number 2. Purdue is number 3. What has ever happened to Gonzaga? Everyone was so hype up on Gonzaga. They already have 2 losses. Baylor's undefeated so far. USC, number 7th. They're sneaking up on people as well. So the problem with Gonzaga, they're not going to make it back to the number 1 because of the conference they are in. The only rival that they really have is the St. Mary Gales. That's about the only rival they have. And they play them twice, and usually they play Gonzaga pretty tough, no matter what position Gonzaga is in. But my North Carolina Tar Heels, they're not doing so hot, so we can just throw that out of the box right there. So with that, we got Duke and Baylor and Purdue. So I still think Purdue could be number 1 again if Baylor goes down. But if Baylor does not go down, it's Baylor's till they lose. That is my take on that one. And we got the National Basketball Association, the NBA. Let's talk about the Chicago Bulls. I mean, DeRozan, he's been out of the show since he left Toronto. I mean, he's the leader in Chicago, in my opinion. He's made the 2 straight game-winning shots in 2 straight games. Chicago has a 7-game winning streak. They're number 1 in the East as of right now at 24-10, and the Brooklyn Nets are trailing them by 1 game, same with the Milwaukee Bucks. On the West side, you got the Golden State Warriors. They're a half game above the Phoenix Suns at 28-7, and Phoenix Suns are at 28-8, wins and losses and so forth. But the biggest thing right there is the LA Lakers. They are on the bubble. Same with my Minnesota Timberwolves. The Lakers are 19-19, playing only 500 ball, and they've lost 4 of 6 of their last 10 games. So what does it mean for the Lakers? I mean, they're not going to make it. That's all I'm going to say. They're not going to be they're not a championship caliber team. And people could say, well, look at when LeBron, it was on the Cavaliers with the same record, blah, blah, blah. LeBron cannot win a title on his own. That's why he has to leave all these teams, because he knows for a fact he cannot win a title by himself. And he has to have a super team, I guess you can call it. So it's LeBron's team. That's all I got to say about the guy. I'm not making bad jokes about him this time or anything else. But if LeBron James is on your team, it's not your team, it's LeBron James' team. So with that one right there. So Major League Baseball, nothing's really happened in the baseball. The biggest thing that happened in Pacific Northwest was actually Kyle Seager retiring after 11 years with the Mariners. Get this, with Kyle Seager and Fernandez, they have not played in the MLB playoffs whatsoever. Felix Hernandez and Kyle Seager does not know what a playoff is. The last notable Mariner to actually play in a playoff was Ichiro back in 2001, but we know how that ended up. And we know the rest of the story for the Mariners since they have the longest streak in playoffs. So with that being said, we got Gold Glover Chavez. He's parting ways with the Yankee staff. And Bellinger and the Dodgers agreed to a $17 million deal. So Bellinger is still going to be hitting dingers all the time for the LA Dodgers. I remember watching that kid during the Little League World Series. I almost said the Little Kid World Series, but the Little League World Series. That's a really fun to watch. And I remember actually watching him, and he still has the same swing that he did back then. So with that being said, we're still going towards a lockout. It's going to happen. I don't know what else to say. It's just going to happen. I don't know about any meetings that were going to happen, because the last meeting lasted 5 minutes and nothing really happened during that time. So, I don't know. If anybody's watching the show, just dropping comments, I'll definitely try to answer your questions or have interactions during this time. So, with that being said, we're going to go back to the playoffs. Who do you think, or the NFL, who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl? I picked Cleveland at the beginning of the season. I was going out there deep, and man, they're already eliminated from the playoffs because you know what? Baker Mayfield is just a mid-level quarterback, and he will not take a team to a Super Bowl. He reminds me of Joe Flacco, just with less talent. That's how I see Baker Mayfield. He's like Joe Flacco with less talent. Broncos, they had a decent defense, but nothing truly. But who is really going to go into the Super Bowl? My bet, it's going to be the LA Rams. I think they're going to get their act together on the NFC side with that defense, with Von Miller there, even though I haven't really seen much of that happen. But it's a defensive team. It's not an offensive team. It was great to have Matthew Stafford there. He's a little bit more experienced than Jared Goff does because he's Goff awful. But really, has Stafford really been winning for the team, or has it been the defense that's been winning for the Rams with that one? So I'm going to take the Rams, and I am going to take the Kansas City Chiefs. The way that things are standing right now, I don't see no way that the Bengals can keep up with everything. Buffalo Bills, I think they are a pretender, to be honest with you. I don't think they could contend. They're not going to make the playoffs. And same with the Cowboys. I'm sorry, there's just too much inconsistency with the Dallas Cowboys that is happening with them, and with Gallup going down and with a unsure Zeke Elliott. Because the reason I say that, because I don't know if he is going to be a good – I don't know what Zeke Elliott does anymore. I know you're in the backstage, Chris. I'm sorry, but I don't know what he does anymore. I haven't heard his name anymore or anything else, because this league has turned into a passing league, and it's CD Lamb. I think I said Lamb Chops. Let's call him Lamb Chops. That's what I want to call him. Lamb Chops. But a bigger team that has been eliminated from the playoffs is the Seattle Seahawks. They were eliminated last week when they lost against the Bears by 1 point. We don't know if it's going to be the end of Pete Carroll, or we don't know if it's going to be the end of Russell Wilson. But if the fans had their choice, the fans would want to keep Russell Wilson. If you get rid of Russell Wilson, who do you have to really draft in this next year's draft? There's really nobody in this draft. You got Pickett and Carroll, but Carroll got injured. So that, in my mind, puts Pickett at number one, but I don't see him being a first-round pick with that right there. And also, Bobby Wagner, he has been in the news also. He's dealing with a knee injury, and so he is out for next week already. And I bet you he's gone for Seattle. So Seattle is going to be in the last place at NFC West for 2 years. That's all I'm saying. 2 years, Seattle is going to be in the last place. And my Carolina Panthers, they are going to be in last place again next year and the year after. With that being said, this is a little short episode of the Sports Corner, just a breakdown and everything else. We got Mess Around show coming up, Messing Around with Mess Around, I believe it's called, talking about Chicago sports area, and also Diecast football, I believe, as well. I don't know if that's today or tomorrow, but I am going to do better, be back at the sports compound, and continue to deliver the best sports talk show ever. I don't know if you could really say it's the best sport talk show ever, but I'm going to say it is. But with that being said, I am the Sarge. Thank you for joining me at the sports compound, and see you next time.